Hi, Mike Gibson coming to you live from SCAI 2017. I'm joined by Arnold Seto. Arnold came 15 minutes early, and he is running the SCAI Bootcamp, so he's on time. What do you do at SCAI Bootcamp? What are you teaching people there?
Well, we're teaching the Cath lab professionals and the Cath lab physicians how to organize their labs to run a quality, well-run, efficient organization that will be compliant with all the requisite guidelines and Medicare and JCO. And it's really a training period for anyone who's a Cath lab administrator or Cath lab leader. Many physicians want to strive to be Cath lab directors one day, and this is really the initial training for that process, and for those who are already Cath lab directors to improve their skills.
So being a doctor is one skill, being a skilled technician, Cath lab operator is a second skill. Running a Cath lab is the third skill set, right? And these three aren't necessarily overlapping. So what's it take to be a good Cath lab director?
That's a great question, Mike. Many physicians aren't trained in business or even in organizational leadership. They haven't had to deal with hiring and firing, training personnel, dealing with guidelines and protocol development. And so most physicians in administrative jobs, they grow into the role. We're smart people, we can figure it out. But there are some basic background, statistics, of course, but law, management, and these are some of the skills that we try to teach here at the SCAI Cath Lab Bootcamp.
I noticed you said something about laws. You know, Cath lab people generally try and break rules. So how do you get them to jump over to create systems and algorithms where everything goes the same in every case? Is that difficult? Changing that kind of philosophy?
It's definitely a different philosophy. I think anyone who's finds themselves in a Cath lab director position, they have to accommodate what the external factors are pushing on the Cath lab. And those external factors are our regulatory organizations, JCO especially, but also Medicare. And the biggest topic in this Cath Labs Bootcamp is the recent activation of the Medicare MACRA, Medicare Access and Chip Reauthorization Act, which is really starting today, July 1, 2017, where they're measuring our quality outcomes, or you're measuring your own quality outcomes, and that's going to affect your payment starting in 2019. Mm-hmm. And you could lose up to 4% the first year, 5%, up to 9% by 2020 of your Medicare reimbursement could be affected by your quality outcomes. And this is just your Medicare patients, but all the commercial payers are also following in the same model.
I see.
So regardless of what's happening in Washington, healthcare reform, the Obamacare Act, repeal questioned, these are actually quite separate. The MACRA legislation was a bipartisan supported legislation that repealed the SGR, Sustainable Growth Rate model. In exchange, we gave up, we got away from the threat of constant cuts of up to 20%, as you'll recall. But in exchange, organized medicine agreed to having value-based contracts and basically pay for performance. And so, regardless of what any of us want, externally we are under the impact of these factors, and it's going to drive what we do. I mean, many of us grew up in the private, in the fee-for-service model, the private model, but now 75% of physicians, according to MedAxiom, in their group, they actually are employed physicians. So the motivations are completely different. You're not trying to just dent as much as you can. You're actually aiming to align your incentives with the organization and treating that patient as efficiently as possible. So that might be a stent, it might be medical management, it might be a cabbage. So I think all of us who are going through training and evolving in this healthcare environment, we're really going to be changing our practice patterns, and I think it's going to come sooner than people think. And it's really upon us already.
Right. Well, thanks for doing this. I think it's critical. It's something that SCAI offers that the other society meetings don't. Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes SCAI popular among people in interventional cardiology. And thanks for taking the charge. Mm-hmm. And thanks to all of you for joining us here live from SCAI 2017.